let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaining, feedism, and everything plus size. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. We're continuing our series of dinner table talks. We've got a few guests with us, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves one by one.
All right, cjfatone, Grommr name, he, him pronouns, gainer, and encourager as well, and happy to be here.
Hey everybody, my name's Matt. I go by miguy or miguy1200 on Grommr and Instagram and a bunch of other places. Longtime gainer and encourager, been a part of the community for over 30 years. It's been a hell of a journey.
Hi, I'm Ivy, and I'm a feedie and feeder. I've been in the community for like 22 years, and I'm an adult entertainer, web model, producer, all of the above.
Hi, I am chubarista on Instagram and Grommr, wherever it applies. I've been in the community for probably 8 years now, just kind of gainer encourager. It's been a really fun time.
Well, listen, everybody, welcome to the show, and thank you all so much for being here. I will say, this conversation in particular, we're calling it Glutton versus Grazer. I feel like this is one of those, everyone kind of like bandies around the terms, but there's never really like a conversation around how that might flavor our approach to growth, shall we say. So I think today is going to be a really interesting conversation. But listen, getting into the thick of it all to start. How does everybody here identify? Do people either identify as gluttons, as grazers, maybe a different term, or maybe you don't use a term at all?
I honestly identify as both. Like, it really depends on the day and the mood and the situation and what food is available. Yeah, I feel like I'm both.
I definitely relate to that. I feel like it's a day-to-day type of thing. At least for me, I'm not craving a giant meal, but then there are the days where I just really could eat anything in sight.
Yeah, I would say similar for me as well. I will say I probably, if we can use the term spectrum, I would say that I lean maybe a little more on the grazer side. And I have found through my ups and downs and weight and gains and losses over the years that like steady, consistent grazing, for me anyway, produces the best results in terms of gains and pounds added. Because it's just kind of one of these things, you just don't have to think about it. You just keep just munching away and all of a sudden it just happens.
And I'm much the same way. I do consider myself both, depending on the situation, you know, how your mood is, things like that. But over time, as I've also been part of the community for a very long time, you learn a lot about yourself. And so great, I probably am closer on the grazer end for more consistent label if we want to use the label.
I feel like I'm both and neither at the same time. Like, because sometimes honestly, the conversation comes down to, for some of us, like access and money. Like, how much money do I have right now? Like, can I really afford to be a glutton, or do I have to like stretch my meal plan a bit? That's just the reality for a lot of people, especially if you're younger, if you haven't established your career yet, maybe you're in college even, and you don't have the luck of a meal plan or something like that. So yeah, most days it feels like neither.
I feel that. I certainly think I am more of a grazer by nature. And I wonder sometimes how much of that is coming from, you know, I've shared on the podcast before, like a background in which I was extremely underweight. My whole family is that kind of a size. So like literally the majority of my life, even up to now, it has been spent with not like the focus of, oh, there is excess to indulge in or to engage with. So I don't know how much of that is like learned behavior that could be changed versus like my natural rhythm of things. But I'm happy with my grazer approach to that. Though I will say, as a bitch who tries to like photograph her food and post it online to let the fats know that you can cook delicious things, it's fattening, it's wonderful, get into the goods. The amount of people who like, I will bring out an entire like roast chicken and they are like, oh, you're gonna eat all that by yourself. baby, I gotta budget this shit. This stretch for 2, 3 days, and like, unfortunately, a lot of this is gonna be leftovers. Where I'm gonna do what I can to reconstitute her to be as fabulous as it is the first time I eat it. But no, no, we're
It's kind
still.
of like when you asked me why are a lot of American meals made like a brick. It's because it's meant to last. It's meant to sustain. It's meant to keep you fulfilled because you know that your next meal is going to come maybe 12 hours later.
I always think the best thing about leftovers. I'm a big home cook. I love cooking, and that's if I were to like pinpoint one thing that I think has been my secret to like successful gains over the years is always making sure that there are leftovers in the fridge so that I've got something to just go and grab, even if I'm not hungry, but I'm just bored and I want something to do with my hands. Always making sure you've got leftovers on hand is a great way to just get extra calories without even really thinking about it.
And I think this is something we're going to come into with the conversation today because I think ultimately, like, understanding the quote unquote differences between the two, I think will also help us to be like, well, who is what and what do you do? What benefits your approach to gains that you still see the success? Because part of the motivation for this is also so often online, there is one conversation about the approach to gaining and one mode of speed, which is as quickly as possible, as much as possible, uh, nothing but junk food. And, you know, I think the question of sustainability comes up a lot in gaining these days, which I think is good. And I think this is a good place to get in with all of that. So, understanding glutton versus grazer, I would love for each of you to express, like, what for you defines whether or not you consider yourself a glutton or a grazer? Like, what is that kind of, what's the difference there?
Okay, so I completely agree with the money aspect of it because I'm somebody where I'm kind of like in between. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, so I'm working a lot. And money is like the main aspect of it because I've got to make meals that A, I want them to taste good, and B, I want leftovers because it's just a way to save money. And sometimes I'm working just 6 hours a day, sometimes I'm working 14. So it's kind of been forced into a grazer kind of mindset because sometimes you get home and you're like, the last thing I want to do is have a meal. I just want to bite and I want to sit down on my bed and not move for 8 hours.
That's something I think the community never talks about. The fact that, look, as much as we all love food, when we all do it, I'm a foodie too. Sometimes eating is fucking inconvenient because the other demands of your day could be any number of things that take you away from your home, exhaust you physically, mentally, drain you. You get home, you finally have a minute of peace, and then you think, oh fuck. Now I have to cook something because your stomach is rumbling and you don't want to lose the effort that you put into it, but you're like, God, I am so exhausted. That's something I never hear anybody talk about. Just the sometimes it's fucking inconvenient to eat.
Yep.
Enter the value of leftovers again to just pull that Tupperware out of the fridge, throw it in the microwave, and there you go. That's I just yeah, I can't emphasize that enough because then it's just like I know what as much as I love to cook, it's truly if I were to pick like my favorite pastime, it would be cooking and baking. But I definitely have those days where it's just like, oh no, I don't have it in me. I just need to nuke something and fill my belly up.
I envy that because I used to love cooking and baking too. And I don't know what happened that it ended up just becoming a chore. I need to somehow find a way to get a passion back for it because I used to love doing it. And now I just look at it like, oh, I don't want to spend 2 hours making this thing.
I love cooking and baking, but I definitely have that same issue where it's just like, oh my God, it's so much work. Or like, I work from home for myself, so I'm basically always working and I'll be having like a really good momentum and be like, oh, I can't like, I don't want to stop right now to even like heat something up. So it turns into like a weird eating pattern, I guess, where
Mm.
it's like such a mixture of glutton and grazer that it's like when I eat, I'm gonna eat.
It's
But
it's like the American work schedule almost forces you into an eating disorder because
Mhm.
like like depending on what kind of job you have, like as a nurse, when I was in the hospital, I was on my feet for 14 or 16 hours. There's just no way to like effectively work meal planning into the duties that you're given and the amount of hours you're expected to do it in. It's like they just prime us for this crap.
I think like at work, having that. I mean, basically, we're all kind of conditioned to be a factory workers, even if we don't work in factories. It's like
Yeah.
this is when you come in, this is when you're eating, this is when all your stuff takes place. So I think that also played a role in me kind of moving towards that Grazer aspect, just always having snacks available in my office. The glutton stuff can be a lot of fun. And it is interesting you brought up like that the cost, the junk food. Like every once in a while, a good gluttonous like binge on those kinds of foods is nice because it is kind of fun and sexy time, but it also is not sustainable, which is something I've learned over the years. Because that's how when I was first started gaining, it was all about gluttony and going through all the drive-throughs and eating as much as possible and doing all of that, and then just can't. But your body can't handle that. Your pocketbook can't handle that. Like that's just not
And just think about how
sustainable.
much that's been reinforced by the community through fantasies, through, the objectification of of content creators and everything. And it's just like, I don't know. This is a Sunday where like I'm having a lot of revelations. So
Yeah.
forgive me while I have personal revelations in the background here.
No, but you know what? This is why we have these conversations, because it doesn't happen otherwise. And, you know, I actually want to jump in real quick with something you said, Matt, about cooking and like always having leftovers available. One of my biggest holdups with gaining at the very start was I'm seeing all these really cool recipes, but all of them are structured for family dynamics where I'm cooking for four, I'm cooking for multiple people, and I don't have anyone to share that with. I don't feel motivated to cook all of that for myself. The first time a lot of us live on our own, we're university students, and you're subsisting on like pot noodle. Like, because that's all you could fucking afford on that money, or like whatever shit's in the cafeteria. So, like, learning how to cook good food for yourself is not something that societally is made very easy to us. But what I wanted to say was the thing that helped me was going, oh, four people will eat this meal. All four of them are me. I'm just not going to eat it all tonight. So that helped me to be like, I can make these recipes work. I can make edits and adaptations based on my personal preferences if I sub it for another ingredient, if I want to add extra butter, if I want to find ways to add calories into this and really custom create something that is gorgeous, that is beautiful on its own, but is gainer perfect and all made for me. And it's just a trick you learn over time, like how to best reheat food. Like I know you say, Matt, about like having the leftovers ready to go. Some people are happy to like take cold food from the fridge, nosh it, and like it's a good time. Some people need to reheat it. I might encourage people don't need to always lean on the microwave. Like if it's a liquid of any kind, baby, you can put that in a pot on the stove. Give her 5 to 15 minutes depending on the density of the food, and she will be hot and bubbly and gorgeous. Stick it in the oven on some like baking paper, again for 10 to 20 minutes depending on what it is. It'll be like steaming and hot and gorgeous and reconstituted in a fabulous way. Like these are the kind of little things that we can do that help to make the process of engaging with leftovers and engaging with food, regardless of glutton or grazer, I think makes it a little bit more like, oh, I have something to look forward to, rather than that thing of like, oh, I have no money and I know the leftovers aren't that great. I'm gonna have to kind of like force it down and it's not that good an experience. Like, it just adds a little bit more good, I think.
You're absolutely right. I'm a freak about food temperature. Like, if something is supposed to be warm and I don't want to eat it cold, I just can't do it. It's a thing. But like microwaved pizza, reheated microwave pizza, I can't. Like, so my thing, you put it in there, you take the chill off of it with the microwave, and then slide it in the oven for however long. That way you get a little bit of crisp, everything gets nice and perfect again. It's just little hacks like that make all the difference in the world.
I think the pizza thing is great because I do the same thing, heat it up in the microwave and then either throw it in the toaster oven or the air fryer, or even in a skillet on the stove so the crust gets crispy. That's always good. And just kind of bouncing off the leftovers talk, I so many things turn into great fried rice. Like we always make a big batch of rice with everything pretty much that we make. So then the next day or two, it's like, all right, let's turn this into a fried rice, which is actually quick and convenient and also calorie dense.
Yeah, sometimes people get confused about fried rice, which I find so strange. In a wok, take your already cooked rice and fry it off. Add as much sesame oil as you want, baby. Oil is pure calorie. And you put a little extra in, and then you fry your scallions, green onions, and that. Move the bitch to the side. You get some eggs, you whip them up, you pour that in, get that nice and scrambly, mix it and move it over to the side, and then you're gonna add your soy sauce, oyster sauce, fish sauce, add you in some like white and black sesame seeds, add in some red pepper chili flakes, you know? Like, there's just so many gorgeous ways to like zhuzh up a thing that it doesn't have to be like a neglected piece of food that I will now like make work. It's like no, she's being worked into the next stage of this incredible process.
Similarly, anything can be made into an omelet.
I was actually going to say that. That was in my house. What we did was if we had like leftover potatoes, leftover risotto, leftover meats, we turned it into an omelet with like a ton of cheese.
So we've been talking a little about this so far, and I think maybe for listeners as well, we can kind of get a sense of this. Do we feel the community prefers one style of gaming over the other?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, from just like judging on even just like going off of content sales, gluttony is what the vast majority seem to prefer. And I mean, I get the appeal of it, especially in a fantasy situation, but for day-to-day life, it's like that's a rough one.
I would tend to agree completely that that's generally what dialogue, that's where conversations generally go. That's where people's heads go in the moment and things like that. That it's all about, stuffing yourself until you're absolutely just packed full and just the gorging and all of that. That it's just, I don't know, maybe I blame Warren Davis for this, but it's sort of like, that's the bar by which gainer eroticism is sort of set, I think. I don't know, at least in the context of food and eating.
I definitely agree. I think it's all about the fantasy of it, because the people watching, it's definitely about the fantasy. The people watching are like, oh, it's a lot more impressive to eat this giant meal and pig out on all these snacks than somebody just grazing. When in reality, I feel like grazing is the norm. So people don't want to see that, which I completely understand. But it runs a fine line because people want these people to be gluttons all the time, but that's just not realistic. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say the reality of being gluttonous all of the time is just like for people who see it as a fantasy, maybe don't actually sit down and think about what it takes to do that. Like not only meal prep, if that's what you're going into, but there's the cleanup, there's you know, the walking the fine line between being really full and then undoing all the work that you were doing to get yourself to that point. And all of that is not the sexy part of the fantasy. Like they just want the stuffing and in and out kind of thing.
Yeah, and we've talked before about the unsustainability of like constant gluttony because unless you're independently wealthy and your body is just able to completely adjust to all of these radical changes with no drawbacks, then yeah, I mean, yeah, if those two things are in your favor, then go for it. For the rest of us, we have to find that balance between like, yeah, we want to have those gluttonous moments. I want to go out to a buffet, I want to pig out, I want to be like ready to pop by the time somebody brings me home to play with me. But I can't do that every single day. I would end up in the hospital. I have to find I have to find a way to correctly balance the gluttonous episodes with my daily eating.
I often find that for me, grazing, much like you were saying, babes, grazing is the norm. Gluttony is the fantasy. I don't know that I know many people who, if we were just out, like at a cafe or like a little lunchtime spot, I don't know many people who would make a glutton of themselves in the space. I feel like most people have a tendency to, operate at on a certain frequency, shall we say. But again, this is why we have this conversation, because I think maybe it is a bit more natural in the day-to-day to approach to approach from that aspect of grazing. And listen, fantasy versus reality, we did it as like 4th episode of season 1, and here we are today, still having to unpack, untangle, because as a community, we just don't want to talk about like the real. of this experience. And I want to put this to you all here. Like, do you feel that there are foods or cuisines, shall we say, that are maybe better suited to either gluttony or to grazing? What do you all think?
I do for sure. I feel like gluttony on anything packed with sugar is, for me, a recipe for disaster. And unfortunately, what everyone always wants, every feeder that I've been with, almost like the majority of fans and people that I've spoken to within the community, it's always like, oh, I want to see you eat a bunch of cake or like pies or cupcake. It's never like, let me watch you eat a big juicy steak and a whole turkey, and which is like what I would prefer. So I don't know. That's been my experience.
You know, that's another thing. Nobody ever talks about the fact that it's always dessert obsessed. Like we're always like when it comes to the gluttony thing, it's like it's got to be cake, pie, cupcakes, cookies, something like that. It's never, like you said, a steak. Like take me out to like a really friggin' awesome restaurant where I can get a great steak, like a totally awesome savory meal. Like sometimes I don't want to be stuffed on cream puffs either.
I think I share the savory over sweet aspect with you guys, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my sweets, but I would much rather sit down and like go to town on pizza or a mountain of pasta or, anything like that. That's not to say that I haven't, poured back more than my share of melted ice cream in my day, but I think you're right. I think in the scene and in the moment, I think a lot of people, it's just all about the sweets and the melted ice cream and this and the chocolate cake and all this different stuff. But I think also there's a lot of emphasis around like not even how many slices of pizza, but how many pizzas have you eaten, or how many whatever you got from Taco Bell have you just like gone completely ham on. I think those are definitely at least in my brain foods that really lend themselves into that kind of stuffing, kind of monumentous sort of episodic gluttony. On the flip side of that, the whole grazing piece, my go-to grazing thing is trail mix, especially trail mix with, of all the nuts in it, but then also like your M&Ms and some dried fruit and all that. You can with just have a little, like I work from home, so I keep a bowl. It's not here right now because I'm not working today, but I keep a bowl. It's just a normal cereal bowl on my desk all day long, and I fill it up every day, and it's like 1,200 calories of nuts and chocolate and dried fruit. And by the end of the day, that's gone, and I didn't even realize I ate anything. It's just an extra 1,200 calories that I didn't even that just happened. And I still have my normal meals, and it's not like all of a sudden, oh my God, I'm so in pain and all this stuff. It's just no, there's an extra, didn't even have to work for it.
I also think with gluttony, the kind of expectation is, like the sugars, like eat 3 dozen donuts, or with the pizza, eat 2 pizzas, or eat 15 burgers. Like it's always about the number, like of things you can eat of one thing. And for me, that doesn't work. I can't, like, I could probably eat an entire pizza's worth of food, but I can't eat a whole pizza because I get bored, or like I get through a couple pieces and then I just can't, like, my I want to enjoy what I'm eating, and so at a certain point it's not enjoyable anymore, and so then my body's like, no, let's get something else. So for me, in those situations when we're doing like kind of a gluttonous type of thing, it's about variety of the food available to me, and not about a single piece of, like a single donut or a cookie, or like eating a whole cake.
How
No.
do you guys handle flavor fatigue, by the way? Like when you know that you like okay, so like say like you know that you can provide for yourself, you've got enough money to buy your own food, and like you think that you want to glutton yourself out on a particular thing because it's calorie dense and whatever, but then you just get sick of it. Like you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to keep eating this. Like, how do you guys handle flavor fatigue?
I definitely need a variety. It's not just flavor. I need like the salty and sweet, but also texture.
Yes,
Because
texture
I
fatigue is a thing as
will
well.
bite into something and I'll be loving the meal, and then all of a sudden, gone. Garbage. It's the most disgusting thing I've had in my life. I need something else. If I want to like do the whole glutton thing, I need like a variety, like a charcuterie board of things I can snack on.
Which is why I
I'm
usually say buffet.
Exactly.
I am the exact same way. I get texture fatigue so bad, and I have so many texture aversions that like if I get the wrong, that just puts me off everything. I'm just like done, can't do it. And I don't know, for flavor fatigue, it's like I just try to always prevent it from happening. Like because I know that it's such an issue for me that I just always am like if I'm ordering like food from somewhere like takeout, I almost always order like sides and a la carte because that way it's like, I can get like all the different things and not get sick of it. And it sucks because it's a little more expensive, which is why I try to home cook. But yeah, I just like try to just prevent it from happening in the first place because I know how often I get it.
I would say for me, my trick when it comes to things like both flavor and texture fatigue, I think a great example of this is a Sunday roast, which British staple, of course. You're looking at meats and potatoes and veg of all kinds, but I make sure every time that it's a little bit of an event. So what that means is my meat, whether it's lamb, beef, pork belly, chicken, it is tender, it is juicy, it is, the meat fibers are just perfectly beginning to like fall apart, perfect for all of that. I make sure that the potatoes are done in a certain way so that they are fluffy on the inside, but they are crispy and crunchy on the outside. I make sure that the Brussels sprouts that I do, I make sure that those are roasted in butter so that they are like a moments away from falling apart and they're ready to just cram into the mouth. Within contrast, broccoli and carrot, I will steam them so that those are still like more firm in the mouth, more of that al dente moment. Then, of course, a proper thick gravy to swallow it all up in, a Yorkshire pudding, which is nice and fluffy. But in each of those things, when we lay it on the table, they're all plated separately so that I can actually go in and have exactly what I want from every bowl, and all the food still gets eaten. But it means that if I think in my brain, oh, I really want to go in on the sprouts first, so I'm going to get my mushy things kind of in and out of the way, so that and a little bit of meat, and then I'm going to go in with maybe more of those like tougher textures, to kind of differentiate in the meal. In that instance, it's planning ahead to make sure that when everything comes out and it's ready to eat, you have that mixture of flavors and textures ready to go.
I agree. I think that's really important to mix and match things. And my trick there is curating the perfect bite each time. So it's just, you've got your plate of your different things. Using your example, James, of the Sunday roast, where you have all the different sort of like family style things, and you just get just the right combination, and it can be a different combination each time, but different textures, different flavors, something salty and a little something sweet. Like, little, we're known for, putting cranberry relish on things and stuff like that. So it's just, that's curating that perfect bite, I think, is a great way so that bite after bite, it's always something a little different. There's a little bit different texture. The flavor combinations make it a little different each time. So it's all about just injecting as much variety as you can throughout the meal.
Do y'all ever wonder if maybe all of the stuff that they ever wrote in those Gainer fictions about burgers and pizza and ice cream and puff pastries and all that led a lot of feeders to believe that that's what we all want to eat all the time? And that maybe
Yes.
people who wrote
Yeah.
these stories didn't necessarily talk to Gainers before they wrote the stories.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
100%.
think it's a lot of people that have never been with a fat person.
Never been
because-
with a fat person. Say it again, Ivy!
Because it'll be like she was, or he or she, whoever, was so immobile they couldn't move with their giant Z-cup breasts at 350 pounds. And I'm like, are they 3 inches tall? Like, what is the...
But that's real. That is so real. We've been covering this with the Warren Davis anthology. And if you haven't checked it out, please go to our YouTube channel and check out these interviews and these episodes. Because one of the questions that we come around and ask every guest is, do you feel like the Warren Davis artwork, gorgeous as it is, do you feel like it has influenced your expectations within gaining and feedism, either within yourself and your own gains, or with what other people are able to achieve? And I think it's a resounding yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would say yes. The other thing that's interesting, kind of coming off that question is that maybe the whole concept of me identifying as a grazer more is because I like a variety of foods and I don't want to eat all of one thing in a moment. So some of that, even in that discussion of what is a grazer, what is a glutton, talking about the difference in approach to what is being eaten, not just about how much.
I will say this here, because I've made references to the fact that I'm writing a book about gaining and feedism before, and one of the points that I bring up is the multitudes of spectra that exist within gaining, because even this conversation here about glutton versus grazer, I don't even think those are the two ends of the gaining spectrum. I would argue that if it's a spectrum of intensity within the eat, glutton is at one end, maybe graze is in the middle, and then I would argue maintainer is at the other end of that, because it's a style of eating determined to not actually progress the growth. It's actually designed to just eat in a way that feels comfortable in the day-to-day without necessarily an intention to progress the growth, you know? And I think kind of like what you were just saying there, Siege, like I think there's also a spectrum on this different facet as well. So I would argue that there's also the hedonist spectra of gaining. So you have the person who's the hedonist. They love to just, oh my goodness, and like they're pouring wine into their mouths and food, and everything's decadent and gorgeous.
Think hedonism bot from Futurama.
I'm guilty.
I feel seen.
You feel seen?
Yeah.
So I think hedonist is at one end of the spectrum, and then I think at the other you've got the cormorant, right? And that's typically the person who just does not care about the quality of the food that they're consuming. It's the person who's like, I found a family buffet for $3.99. We are gonna go, and you agree to go with your sister because you're like, okay, we're gonna have a good time, and then you look at the food on offer and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, just as a word of precaution, if a buffet is $3.99, don't eat there. Like, don't eat there.
Yep. But the cormorant would absolutely love that, because in their mind the intent is to get as much in as possible regardless of the price, right? So there's sort of like that, I guess, a spectrum of luxury approach, if you want, and then in the middle you've got the trencherman, like just the person who's like, I want it to be good in the way that it is good for me, and I want it to be chill, and I just want to have a nice time. And I feel like I'm somewhere between that and the hedonist. I think it depends on what my budget is outlined for, but you know, that's why I operate in. So thank you for bringing that up, Siege.
I have a question.
Does
anyone feel that, being gluttonous in general has led them to become more of a food snob? Like, as a result of being so gluttonous, you're like,
Yes.
I don't want to stuff myself on fast food. Like, give me like a homemade juicy burger. Like,
Yeah.
it's not.
So like when I was before I switched jobs, when I would make stir-fried beef, I would do it with filet mignon.
I love that.
Oh, girl, my favorite thing is if I go out to a restaurant with a partner and we see something on the menu that is like, oh, we would make this at home. We already know, okay, we're going to get that as an extra thing. And my favorite thing, of course, is to, whatever it is, cut into it, scoop it up. I make it better. And then I'm like, girl, they be out here charging $30 for this? Fuck off. I should have gone into the restaurant and business. Shit. Oh.
Don't go that far. Don't do that.
I was going to say, I do that every time. I love to cook. And if I see something on a menu that is like a staple at my house, I'm ordering it. And I'm comparing and contrasting. I'm taking notes, and it happens every time.
Well, look, because they could do it better.
They could. I could learn something.
You could learn something.
I'm a Virgo, so I'm right.
See, James, I've never been to a bad food establishment with you before, and I often wonder what would happen the first time that we walk into an establishment where maybe you were fooled and you thought you were going to get a good meal, and then you look at the quality of everything. I'm kind of afraid you might burn the place down. So
No, unfortunately, and I can tell you exactly what would happen, because as much as I might, about the family sometimes, I think I would definitely take after my mother, who, oh my goodness, the passive aggression is a masterclass, I think. It's the whole, oh, well, how wonderful. I think, did everyone else enjoy their meal? Oh, that's really good. I mean, no, look, it wasn't for me. I don't eat swill and slop, but I'm glad you enjoy it. And listen, waiter, I'm glad that you feel good about this as the food that you present here. No, no, I don't. I don't need a refund. I'm certain that I wouldn't be coming back here again regardless. Look, it's not your fault, of course. It's whoever's back there digging out of the garbage, I'm sure. But no, that's fine. Yeah, no, no, I don't need the dessert menu. I don't think you've been paying attention, my love. We won't be having dessert here. If we can get the bill absolutely immediately, we'll make sure that the seats are free for the next unfortunate group of people to come in. So if we could just get that bill, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much for your service today.
And then he nukes the entire site from orbit after he leaves.
No, I literally had that experience a week ago. I was traveling and did not. I was in one of these indecisive spots. I didn't know what I wanted to have for my meal, so I walked in and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to order a gin and tonic and a cup of it was clam chowder that they had was their soup. And I thought, I'll just figure. I'm going to have this while I figure out what it was. I was super hungry, and both the soup or the chowder and the cocktail arrived, and both were equally disgusting. And I was just like, "Can I just get the check? I'm good. I'm out." And I'm like, "No, I can't." So back to your question, James. Yes, I think all of this from a gluttony and from me a hedonism perspective, it's got to be really really good if I'm going to put myself into this if I'm going to spend the money if I'm and then put myself into the physical space of eating that much and having that whole experience, which is it's one of those things that's wonderful until it's not, but it's got to be really good. Otherwise, I'm just like, pass. No.
I've noticed that my standards are getting a little bit higher since my friendship with James, because I was one of those people who didn't want to complain ever, because it was just like, it's one of those things where like my parents really kind of ingrained in me, like, don't complain, don't make a scene, don't do this, don't do that, like just get in, get what you're doing and get out. So I was one of those people who never complained about anything. But being with James, sometimes I'm like, yeah, this really is shit. And I was okay with shit before I met you, and now I'm not.
First of all, you're welcome. But second of all, and I'll say this as, again, someone who grew up very, very skinsy and has had to learn to love food to benefit my gains, what entices me is good food. Why should I want to overeat, let alone eat? Because bitch, the food is that good. It's so, and when the food is that good when you can smell it in the oven and you get the rumbles and you just go, oh bitch, I am banging my cutlery on the table. I am ready for this food. And when it's so good that you are scooping up every last bit of that and you're using the bread to mop up that sauce, you want to lick the bowl clean and you go, oh, can I have seconds? Like, that is the quality that for me, I strive to cook. And if any of you are ever finding yourselves in London, I know the places where you can find that. So
Good to know.
It kind of feels like that's the whole thing between gluttony and grazing, is like, if you're going to have a moment of gluttony, yeah, you want it to be good. If you are just grazing, it can be a little maybe subpar, because you're not really using it as a means to, like, this is going to be my calorie dense meal. This is just sort of maintenance eating. And then the gluttony is when you're like, oh, that's when I really want to make sure that it's like fucking fantastic.
Mhm.
now I do want to put it out there to you all because I feel like, maybe we're leaning on one side of the conversation. I think that's fine. I think we know what we know. But I do want to ask here, do we feel that one style over the other leads to either more rapid growth or maybe more sustained growth? What do we think?
So can I ask a clarifying question before
Yeah,
that will lead into my answer for that question?
go for it.
So when we go back and forth between the terms glutton and grazer, and for me, vocabulary is important. I'm a big, like, if I'm like, all right, I'm in the mindset and I'm like actively working to like really ramp up my weight and just, summer's coming. I got to get my beach bod on. Let's get this on. Let's get it on. I'm a big fan of, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of my, always having snacks and food and things around to just kind of keep going all day long. But then I will add to that shades of the Hobbit characters, the second breakfast and the elevenses and all these additional meals throughout the day technically, is that grazing or does that fall within the gluttony space? I just,
I mean, I would say that that's
Good
probably
question.
more grazing because it's spread out over a larger amount of time. Like when we think of gluttony, we think of it happening in a shorter amount of time. Like because yeah, some of us can stuff ourselves pretty impressively, but there's a limit, like
Mm.
with grazing it because you can spread it out over multi. Yeah, I guess I would call that grazing.
okay.
Yeah.
I would call it gluttonous grazing
Ooh,
because I
okay.
feel like it's a mix of both. Like you're being a glutton consistently as you graze.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Because that's like, if I can stuff myself, but when I'm in the space, I can like stuff myself, not crazily, but stuff myself, get very full, and then in 2 hours I can do it again. And then in
That's
two
my
hours,
favorite.
and then in 2 hours I can do it again, and then again. And that's for me, that's been what my experience is. It's like, oh, you can put on 25 pounds in a couple months. And
You must have some incredible stomach elasticity. I'm sorry, that's the only, as a nurse, like that's the only thing I could think of. Like for it to empty and be ready to be filled again in 2 hours, that's pretty impressive.
Mm.
whether it's empty or just ready to be filled again, I don't know necessarily, but I mean, I'm not like sitting down and eating a whole turkey dinner, you know, every 2 hours, but it's, oh, here's a whole another plate full of leftovers. And then 2 hours later, here's another plate full of whatever.
I like that. A gluttonous grazer, a sort of hybrid sustained mode of operation where I think ultimately what you're expressing there is you've figured out a way that works best for you and your capacity that you can, not to be technical about it, but maybe optimize the amount of food you're getting in with the amount of hours you've got in the day. And I think that's, in terms of the day-to-day, the best way to operate, right? Like, I think, again, what we're kind of hitting on here with glutton versus grazer, there are so many different body types, so many different approaches to gaining, and when we only have one method or one approach being talked about, if that's not you, you can feel very discouraged because you go, well, they always say the real gainers, the proper gainers, they can eat all this, they can do all this, and I can't do that. I don't know how I'm supposed to get there. How do I train myself to get there? There's not a lot of discussion of thought, I suppose, around the different approaches. But I think in terms of that question, like, do we feel one style versus another produces more sustained growth or produces more rapid growth? What do you all think?
I bet it's a combination, really, because if you think about it, if you sit down for a gluttonous meal, you're maybe packing 6,000 calories into a single meal, right? And that's on top of what you have potentially eaten during the day before that. So it's probably a decent push. And it's probably those episodes of gluttony that help people get past certain plateaus. Like I don't know scientifically if that's the answer, but it maybe, like I'm stuck at a plateau. And I would definitely love the opportunity to have some gluttonous sessions for maybe a couple of months, and that would push me past the plateau. But I would say it's probably column A and column B.
I would agree with that. I think one of the things that I've learned over time is that the kind of fantasy of always stuffing yourself is so unrealistic that I had to start like pulling away from that, but still realizing like you still have to be pretty intentional if you're looking to grow. Like you can't just like think it's going to happen without any additional support or help in terms of caloric intake. So some of those things, like you do have to add those extra things, add that extra sesame oil to your fried rice leftovers, throw in, have that snack bowl there. And both of those things can help with that growth in a more realistic kind of relationship with both ends of that spectrum. Hedonism is also in maintaining things like that as well.
I kind of view it like, I like how you described it as a spectrum, but then there's a lot of different ends to it, like hedonistic and maintaining and all of that. Because where I view myself right now, I'm more maintaining, but not as like by choice. It's more, I'm working a lot, I'm on my feet and money wise, but I feel like I almost view it like how people say zodiac signs. Like I'm a maintaining sun with an hedonistic moon and a gainer rising. Like it's just like a fun little mix of all of them right now.
Now,
I'm
there's some
obsessed.
astrology I think you can get into.
Yeah.
Astrology. Jesus Christ. Dear
You know
listener,
what?
what
You two need to get together and write the the cosmology of the gainer Zodiac.
There you go. Listeners, what's your gainer zodiac chart? Write into us at thiccradio@gmail.com and let us know how you identify with all of this.
That sounds like a prompt for a new episode someday.
So something I'd like to ask here, and again, I know we've sort of talked a little around the differences of gluttony and grazing with all of this, but I would like to know for each of y'all, what has been your biggest tip or trick that you've uncovered? Whether it's something that someone else gave to you or something that you've discovered in your own journey, what is something that has helped you in your approach to gaining effectively?
Something that's helped me with when I've been on a big gainer kick has been grazing, definitely. But I feel like the days where I get the most calories in are when I'm busy. Like if I'm around the house and I'm like cleaning or organizing stuff, I feel like I always have a snack next to me or something, and I'm just grazing throughout the whole day. It's heavy on the like trail mix bowl because people don't realize how many calories are in those things. And it's just like a really easy way to just keep munching on something.
My trick is condiments. Ranch dressing. I mean, I'm from the Midwest originally, so ranch dressing is basically ketchup to me. And I put that on everything. And I mean, there is such thing as too much, but like it's a pretty high ceiling. And anything like mayo based, aioli, anything like that, like any kind of sugary sauce, like there's so many extra calories. Like if I get like a fried chicken sandwich, I'll put like 3 or 4 packets of mayo on, and that's like 100 calories a packet. So, and that's like the cheapest addition to any, meal or whatever that you can make to get more calories in.
I kind of fell down a rabbit hole with this stuff called I think it's called fry sauce.
Oh
Like they
God.
just started selling
Oh,
it. It's like ketchup and mayonnaise and vinegar and something else all mixed together. And
yeah.
it's like I was like, I've never had it before. And I
Okay.
was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Why, where is
Okay.
this bit? I guess they didn't sell it in Ohio up until now.
You touched on the trail mix thing. I mentioned that earlier. That's been one of my biggest aha moments along the way. It was like, oh my God, this is so calorie dense. It's insane. But for me, it's really just the consistency and putting in the effort and then trying to make it fun. Not quite to the level of like gamifying it, but like, oh, you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to get to eat today? Or what do I, just putting yourself in that mindset where you're trying to make it just fun and almost an adventure and almost like a game. How much, how many, how much can I just eat all day long and just how much can I get in? And that it's really that mindset that I have found that has really helped, like I said, when I'm on those strong pushes to really add the pounds.
I think, oh, yeah, having that consistency is important. The sauces, I do that too. Like, always like mayo, fries, it's always mayo mixed with ketchup. They say to drink your calories. So a sauce is kind of like that. Gravy, all of those things add up pretty quickly. Another like friend of mine from the community mentioned granola, and so I started adding granola in. And so like you make yourself a bowl of cereal and just add a cup of granola to that bowl of cereal. Like that it's kind of like trail mix. Like it's so calorie dense with lots of fiber. Like it has all of those oats and things that kind of help your system process all of the stuff you're eating, but also adds those calories.
Yeah.
I will scream for granola. Holy fucking fuck. Baby, if you have, and I tell you this now because I counted this on MyFitnessPal, if you have a cereal bowl and you free pour some granola, you put in like a cup, 2 cups of Greek yogurt, you put on a squirt of honey, that is already over 1,000 calories. The other tip I'm gonna let people in on here, and this is what I call it, maybe you'll already do something similar. I call it the 90% rule because, again, when I first started gaining, I would stuff myself. Because I would stuff myself totally full, it would then take me several hours before I was ready to eat again. And we're talking about a time when I was so skinny that I could have done that for breakfast and I wouldn't be hungry until dinner, right? But what I started applying was the 90% rule. I would allow myself to get sufficiently full enough, but not stuffed. And what I would find is that my reload time came around that much quicker. And every time I eat, except for the last meal of the day, I get myself to 90%. And it used to be when I started doing that, it would then, instead of taking me the whole 8-hour day to get hungry until dinner, it was 4 hours. And then it was 3, and then it was 2. And now I can basically predict when I'm going to be hungry, hour on the dot. I know 9 o'clock in the morning, I need to have breakfast, and I need to make sure that I'm done by now, because by 11, I'm going to be hungry again, and I'm going to need my lunch at 1, and I'm going to need my post-lunch snack at 3. And you get into a real, like, oh, this helps me to navigate, I guess, stomach elasticity. I don't know what you would technically call it.
I think you're kind of like this. I should know all the exact terms for all this, but it's essentially you train your circadian rhythm to know when to eat. And because we're creatures of habit, the body gets used to it. You know, it's like we talk about the internal clock. It's kind of like that.
I was gonna say the other thing that sometimes, like if I am in the full on like gaining mode, like throwing on some clothes that don't quite fit me anymore can override any like I'm full. If I throw on some clothes that are a little too tight, and then you get into that gainer brain flips on, and you're like, okay, now I can eat some more because like there I can see that the progress is being made.
You put your eating pants on.
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because you just said eating pants, and I was thinking of the song Freakum Dress, and now I just changed it to put your eating dress on.
I was doing the same exact thing in my
Okay,
head.
I'm glad I wasn't the
Same
only
thing.
one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Are there any thoughts or feelings that have come up for anyone during this session that we haven't had a chance to touch on yet that anyone would like to jump in with?
I feel like we've done a lot of talk about cooking and tips and tricks and this and different things. Not necessarily germane to today's episode, but and maybe this has been done and I've missed it in the list of episodes somewhere, but like a recipe off or something like that could be a great idea for, a future show or something like that. Just, crowdsourcing, not necessarily, oh, what's your best gainer shake recipe? Because that's been done to the nth degree. But what are your go-to things when you just want like really good, calorie dense meal? Yeah.
James has put it out there before to the community to submit recipes, and we do want to hopefully build a cookbook at some point, because that's something that the community doesn't have either. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I just, every time the cookbook idea comes up, I can already see it. Like, I want it to be, like Nana's cookbook, like very like country Rose Cottage style. It's me and Tim in like the high waist with the bonnets and like the little half moon glasses hanging off our nose. Always like, your auntie's about to, shut the fuck up, Tim, with that fucking eye look of yours. How dare you? How dare you on this podcast episode give a look like that?
Well, you can be the sweet little plump auntie that smells like baking powder, and I can be the fucked up drunk uncle.
So wait, hang on. This is Amy Sedaris at home. I'm Amy Sedaris, and you're the poor bastard where I'm like, knife man, come bring me the things.
Yeah, I'm the
I
knife
need
guy.
for the
I'm the
streets."
horribly depressed knife guy.
I'm seeing the like Betty Crocker cookbook that every mom has in their kitchen with the red plaid. And you're just on the front of it, and then the back of it is like a black plaid.
Let's be completely honest here. Would anybody that knows me, that has listened to this show, seen me on live streams, anytime I've been on a camera, would they ever see me as what you were describing, James?
They could. They
don't
might.
think that it's very realistic.
I'm trying to dig deep here.
I think that they'd probably see right through it.
Oh, all right, fine.
They'd probably go, "What the fuck is Tim wearing?"
There'll be cutaway pictures of me like trying to hit you with a frying pan or something like that. You cowering in fear. There we go. That'll be the that'll be the alternate. There we go. Okay. But to your original point, Matt, an episode that is like a recipe swap, I actually think that would be really good. And, we've kind of touched on that a little bit here. Like, what are people's like tips and tricks for, what has helped them with their weight gain growth? So listeners, if you've got a recipe, not a gainer shake, not 4 cups of vegetable oil, if you have suggestions for us that might be good, email them to us at thiccradio@gmail.com. We would be delighted to read through them and potentially do an episode about that.
I think one of the things I have to think about too when I'm on nights where I'm like really stuffing myself, I'll be in the middle of the meal and then I go, I have to be up at 5 a.m. This is going to hit my stomach hard. So one of the things is like stuffing yourself with food that your body can process. Which is like a fine line because I'm still going to eat cheese. I'm from the Midwest. I'm still going to eat my cheese and my meat, but sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I can't have that whole tub of ice cream.
After 11 o'clock at night, maybe we put some self-imposed restrictions on
Especially
what
if you're lactose intolerant.
Maybe Ben and Jerry need to go home.
I think today has been a really good episode. I think we talked around about a lot of these sort of different experiences with gluttony, with grazing, and I think this has been really, really good. I guess a typical question we might close out with here. Does anyone have any words of advice? Maybe if there are listeners who are struggling on their gaining journey, their fetus journey, because they're trying to fulfill a gluttonous way of life, and it's just not working for them. Any advice for people who might be looking to do a bit of a switch and have some more sustained growth?
I think I'm going to jump out, and I think I said this when I did the live stream, but comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're comparing your gainer journey to the Warren Davis gainers journeys, to other people who are posting about how gluttonous they are, and you've tried that and it doesn't work for you, you're not doing it wrong. You are doing it the way you need to do it. So don't compare yourself to other people, and make those small changes that can maybe help. And I think that the one great thing about the community and podcasts like this is that there is a community out there that you can reach out to kind of see, like, get some of those tips that, from our stories that we've shared on this podcast and other podcasts, be like, oh, I really connect with what Ivy had to say. So let me reach out. I think we're all happy to help answer those questions and give some tips because it all depends. There's so many variables. It's not always easy, and that is how it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll build on that by saying there's no wrong answer. So it's finding what works really well for you and being consistent about it and rolling with it. There's a great book that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here, but it's called Atomic Habits, and it's about making those small changes in life to achieve whatever it is that you set a goal for yourself. Interestingly enough, in one of the chapters, there is a bit of an anecdote about, 2 or 3 guys and how they change their lives in these small ways. And one guy ends up like 60 pounds heavier than the other guy. And I'm kind of like, that's interesting. But it's really the power of those small changes and finding things that you can digest easily. And I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about lifestyle changes that you can fit in for yourself that help you achieve the goals that you want. Again, maybe it's having that second lunch, or it's having a bowl of trail mix on your desk as you work through the day or something like that, or whatever it is, whatever works well for you, dial in on it and stay consistent.
Yeah, I really can't add anything to that. I mean, it's like everything that's been said is really how I feel. And, gaining's supposed to be fun. So at the end of the day, if you're not having fun, that's really the only way you can do it wrong, is if you're not enjoying yourself. Because if you're not enjoying yourself, what are you doing,
And that's everything that was said was pretty much what I was thinking. It's when you start comparing yourself to other people, that's when I feel like it starts to go downhill a little bit. And your journey is your journey. It's not anybody else's.
My piece of advice is something I've said a couple of times across different episodes, but I think it always bears repeating. This is essentially what I wish someone would have told me when I first started, which is that gaining does not actually start with you eating food. Gaining starts with you coming to understand yourself, your life, and working within that. The first thing you should get your head around is a budget. Learn your dollar values, what you can afford to do. And baby, if you can't afford to do it, don't do it. Step at a time. We've been talking around things like the dietary stuff. Like if you're on your gaining journey and you know that maybe you're developing a sense of lactose intolerance because you're pounding heavy cream every day, baby, look at legumes, look at avocado and dried fruit as ways to get your calories in without it being lactose based. we're literally on a journey of transformation. That also includes the way that we approach gaming. You don't have to be stuck with something just because other people said it worked for them, or because other people told you, oh, you have to stick with this to make it work. If it's not working, try something different.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I don't know if I can add anything more to the conversation on gluttony versus grazer or which one is preferable. I don't think one has to be preferable over the other. I think whatever works is whatever works. I mean, we're all trying to get to the same place, so however you manage to get there is your decision.
Well, everyone, I think that brings us to the end of this week's conversation. I want to say a big thank you to everyone for your contributions today. Now, where can our listeners find you all online?
You can find me on Grommr and Instagram as cjfatone.
You can find me on Grommr and Instagram as miguy1200.
You can find me on Instagram at misivydavenport and on Twitter at bbwivydavenport.
You can find me on Grommr and Instagram under chubarista.
Well, y'all, that's it for another week here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a good review. Now, if you liked this episode, the podcast, our guests, or just us in general, please share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram at thiccmouse and Grommr at orpheus. You can also find us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc Radio, or visit our website at podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you want to become a financial supporter of the show, you can donate through our PayPal account, and you can always email us at thethiccradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats. CJ.
Bye,
Bye,
Fats.
Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Spotify podcast
Artwork, media design, editing, and production by James Heinzen.
with original theme music by CYMK.